Okay, so we're gonna do Oisvav. So the Rebbe continues in Oisvav. So the Rebbe continues over here that Api HaMevur Li'il, based on what we explained earlier, that which in Siv Dalet, we said in Siv Dalet, the fact that Chochmah it becomes a source for Bina, who ayin, that level, the level in Chochmah, which is a source for Bina, is ayin legabe etzem HaChochmah. That is relative to the etzem HaChochmah, that is ayin. So that becomes the ayin of the Yeshua Amiti. Ayin legabe etzem HaChochmah, ayin the Kolor Choshev. That's an ayin which is not considered, that's an ayin milamailo, that this etzem HaChochmah is kiloi choshi. I mean the chochma that is mokel lebina is kiloi choshiv relative to the etzem chochma. Ayin the kiloi choshiv. The kind there is an ayin which is the ayin liyesh because einoi musag, but this is an ayin because it's einoi choshiv, because this is mil the deya mil milo. Lamato, that Lamailo is the Yesh, that's the essence of Chochmah, and the Chochmah that is becomes a Mokulibina is the Ayin, which is Ein Choshen, Lo Choshen. Yesh Loimar, so we can say Shaharoma v'ha'aliyah b'bchinas ha'chochmah shenasis Mokulibina, that when there is an elevation and when you raise in the level of Chochmah that becomes a Mokar Libina, Nichleles Beharoma Vehaliya Debina. So that is included in when we're saying also Nisim Orim Nisi in the Bina part. The Chochmah that becomes a Mokar Libina is included in Laviseinu, in the Bina part of Aviseinu. The Bina. But the fact that it says Nisim and Aloshon Rabim, Shaharoma v'aliyah shal yidei Nisim, that the elevation and the raising that takes place through the Nisim, he b'shtei hamoichin. There is also elevation in hamoichin b'bina u'bechokma, in Bina and Chokma. So which part of Chochmah we're talking about? The Etzem HaChochmah, the Haroma. The Haroma and the Chochmah that is Amokar Bina is included in the Haroma of Bina. But when we say Laviseinu, there's a Haroma Chochmah also. Hakavona Bazehi, the intention is Yidei HaNisim Nasa Haroma V'Aliyah, that through the Nisim there becomes a raising and an elevation. Gam be'etzem HaChochmah, Shalamayla Mimokar Libina, also in the essence of Chochmah, which is higher than being a source to Bina. So the Yuvan Bahagim Amuva Li'il will understand this by introducing that which brought down before B'dibur HaMaschil Pesach Eliyahu, the Maimer Pesach Eliyahu, the Shtei HaDeis, that both of you, but the Das Elyon and the Das Tachten, the upper Deya and the lower Deya views, Heinem is they're both true. They both have a root in the essence of the Ein Sof. The fact that the Ein Sof is revealed lower till no end, the Das Elyon, that is the root of the Supreme Das, the higher Das, Shalamata Ayin, that Lamato, there is nothing. The Ein Sof reveals itself always Lamato. Lamato is Ayin. Ein Sof hu behelem l'mayla they catch, and the fact that he's higher, there's no end. who Hashoirish the Das Tachten, that is the root for Das Tachten Shalamata Yesh. That below is the Yesh because the Ein Sof is Misalem, and it's an Ayin Lagabi that Yesh. This Bayer Shom was explained over there. The fact that we're all saying this Das Tachten is Emes is Levisha Yesh Lo Shoirish Be'atzmus Ein Sof. Because there's a root for that in the essence of the Ein Sof. Who? That is Lefisha Hadeyo Shalamato Yeshi. This view that below is a Yesh, Eloi Shalagabe Dargazu. Hamato Mitzad Atzma Mitzias. That when we say Lamato Yesh, it's not that relative to this level that the Lamata is the Yesh, which from the Ein Sof is Hamata Mitzad Atzma Mitzias. That on its own, the Mata is a Mitzias Yesh. Ela Bichdei Sheyi Hagilu de Lamaila Maila Den Kates. That the reason he's a Yesh is so that there should be the revelation of Lamaila Maila Den Kates. Mitzad Ritzoinoi, there is a Yesh over here, so that there could be the revelation by Maila Den Kates. Bezehu Shashleimus the Das Tachten Hi Al Yidei. And that's why this is that the Das Tachten. What is the Shleimus? You need the Meir Ba'agila Das Elyon. L'chayda, that's an expression already of the Ein Sof in the fact that it's L'mayla Mayla Den Kates. So why is the shleimus of the Avtachten having the Das Elyon? Ki b'chitzoyni is nira shehadeyo dilamato yeshu. Because externally it appears that this view that below the yesh is shamata mitzad atzmayu mitzias, that his mitzias is on his own. But when we say you have the Gilui Das Elyon, Vayidei Achibur Shaloim Das Elyon, and through the union with the Das Elyon, Mizgale, then is revealed Shenyone B'Pnimius V'Agilu D'L'Mayla Den Ketz. That reveals that this Yesh Lamato is not because Mitzad Atzmi is a Mitzias. This reveals that what it is B'Pnimius is the Gilui D'L'Mayla Den Ketz, higher to no end. That is what makes him a yesh. Similarly is as it relates to das tachten when the conduct of the world is according to nature. This that the Eibishter leads every created being according to its own matter, which is lifi misgoy utchunoisov, according to its chemistry and characteristics. That points to the fact that the created beings are important. They take up space over there. He gives everybody dress up according to each one at their level. Now, we don't mean loy shanivroi mitzad atzmom toivsim mokum lagabe. It is not that the created being on their own take up space relative to Hashem. Elam b'pnei shekach olam b'ritzoyne yizborich. But this is what Hashem wants. It's not that they inherently, on their own, are important, but it went up in His blessed will. That's what He decided. That the Nivroim should take up space. So it's Hashem wants them to take up space, not that they really take up space, not really that they're really an entity. This is all from the previous minor. That the chiluk bein hanhoga tivis lanhoga nisisu. The difference between the natural conduct and the miraculous conduct is the harotzim ben hoget tivis hulahanigas oilam beoifun sha'oilam hu mitzias. The rotzin, Hashem's will in the natural conduct, that is to lead the world in such a way that's Hashem's will to run the way that the world is a mitzias. That's a rotzin of Hashem to read it in a mitzias way. And the rotzin in the miraculous conduct to lead the world in a way that the world is not important. So these are two expressions of the rotzin of Hashem, to run it in a natural way or to run it in a miraculous way, and run it in a way where the world is important, or to run it in a world where the world is not important, not choshev. This is why. What is the wholesomeness of the natural conduct is by drawing down into the revelation of higher than Teva. When you bring down in Teva higher than Teva, that brings the Shleim. That way, we reveal the inner of the conduct of Teva. That why is Teva? Because that's what Hashem wants. His blessed will wants there to be Teva. But it's not that Teva in of itself is the nature, has a space. It is the Eibishter's will that should be Teva smoking, the Eibishter's will that there should be Teva. How do we see that Teva is not really Teva? When there's a miracle. So the miracle tells us that the Teva is also not Teva. Then you can see the inner of the conduct of Teva, that is because that is what the Eibishter wants. Yisbarach. So we can say, Shal derech zehu b'das elyon, that similarly is also in the das elyon. This we just pointed out in das tachten, helps us understand the das tachten. So we appreciate that the das tachten is not an entity by itself. It's not an hogas hateva by itself, but it's an expression of Ritzoni Yisborach that this should be done hogas hateva. But this also helps us understand the das elyon. Shal derech zeh b'das elyon. Similar is in the das elyon. Sheyesh bo shnei oifanim. There's also two ways over there. Just like in das tachten, there is two ways. It appears to be naturally a mitzias, and the inner is that it's not a mitzias in of itself, but it's rather an expression of the Ratzon Hashem. Also, the das elyon has two ways. The bechitzoni is nira, the zeh shelamata ayin, that on an external level, when we talk about das elyon, so it appears that why is the mata an ayin, who mipnei shahamata mitzad atzmei hu ke'ayin de k'lo choshev, is because the lower level is ayin in. Why is the mata ayin? Is inherently by himself. He's ayin de k'lo choshev. He's worthless. He has no importance. That ayin relative to the yesh, to the real yesh, the bottom is an ayin because it's not important at all. Obipnimius who, but the inner idea of it, the zeshel lamata ayin who, that why is there ayin lamata vichdei legalis? It is in order to reveal she'oirin sof hu lamata mata adin tachlis. In order to reveal the oirin sof that's in tachlis, that's why it's ayin. It's because Hashem wants to reveal. In order to reveal that the Eibush is lamata mata adin taklis, that's why the bar is an ayin. So val yidei shedas elyon nimshach b'das tachten. When you have the das elyon extend in the das tachten, umischaber imay, in revealing it. Mizgale apnimis shaloi, you reveal the pnimius of the Das Elyon, that it's not because the bottom, the low is ake'ayin, it is because of, that's the expression of the, in order to be the gilui lamata mata de tachas. Similarly, it's also as it relates to miracles and teva. That when you bring down the nisim in the world in teva, you also reveal the pnimis of the nisim. Before we were talking about, you revealed the pnimis of the teva. Now you say that the same thing in the Das Elyon, the same thing is the nisim, that when you bring the nisim down into the world teva, Mizgale hapnimis shalem, the inner of nisim is revealed. So what does it reveal? It tells us that the fact that in the anhoga that's higher than nature, the created being do not take up any space, are not important. That's what Hashem wants. That is mitzad the rotzen, that they are not tevis mokim. The ayin shalem is not in essence, but rather is the Eibishter's rule. That's why we say did nisim tavisenu, both lavisenu loshen rabbi in the plural. The harome v'ha'aliyah shalideya siyas hanisim. The raising and the elevation that takes place through the miracles, hihein bebina, it's both in avisenu, in chokhmah bina, das tachten in nature and above nature. It's whether it's in bina and chokhmah and bina. It's both in bina sheirish hateva, vehein b'chokhmah and chokhmah sheirish l'maylam hateva, the root that's higher than teva. Sheshnei ha'inyonim heim, both teva and higher than teva, eloi mitzad atzmam. They're not inherently teva and not teva. But rather to reveal that the Eirin Sof is the Maila Dein Ketz, which reveals the Das Tachten nature, and Lamata Dein Tachlis, which reveals miracles, that there is Das Elyon, that Lamata is Ayin and above is a Yesh. Lamata, those are both to reveal the two levels of the Eirin Sof. Zayin. Hine b'chdei sheyuchal liyas hachibur d'shnei ha'inyonim. In order for it to be able to connect, to be able to be the connection of these two aspects, that both, we're going to say, that in Teva we should reveal, in Teva Olam to reveal the purpose of Teva, and in the Nisim to revert the purpose of Nisim, that they're both, not purpose, but how they come about, that they're both to be Megala Deir Sof. Shabbatava the Olam. Shaboy Mudgash Olam Umitzias. In the Teva Olam is emphasized that it's a Mitzias. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Manig Eskol Nivra Kifi Inyone, because the fact that the Eibishter leads every created being according to its aspect, Moire points, Sheban Hogazu Hanivraim Tefsimokim, that in this conduct the created being take up space. And we want that in this world, in the Hanhoga of Kifinyonim, Yagilu Matava. So you should reveal the higher than Tava, which would mean Sheboy Mudgash Habitul the Olam. Over there, when we have the Anhoga of Lamayla Matava, it emphasizes that not the entity of the world that is Tevis Mokim. The Zesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Manigas Olam Kifirit Soinoi V'loi Kifit Chunas V'Tava Nivroi. when we do Lamai Lamateva, in which it comes to emphasize that the Eibishter leads the world like he wants, not according to the characteristics and the nature of the created being. Like that points that points to the fact that in this type of style of conduct, the created being don't take up any space. How does this two aspects take place? Well, that in Teva itself, there is the level of bittul. Commission is by a little bit of as explained in the Maya Pascal the fact that the shape, the neshama, the whatever the tzura of the nivroim has not, or the tzura sachomer, he said both, has not been articulated in the 10 commandments, the 10 sayings of Asara Mamoris that the world was created. And the bringing about the tzura that's in each created being comes from the level of Ratzin, Moira ala bitl da'olam. That points to the level that the world is subjugated. The hahishavus shemeharatzin in Yonahu, the creation that comes from the level of Ratzin. Kol asher chafetz also, or that the Asara Mamoris. So when there is the creation of Ratzin in Yonahu, that is loy shemishavim nivroim, it's not the fact that nivroim are created. It's just that through the bringing into being, the Eibishter's will has been fulfilled. Not that there is something created. That's not what's sensed there, but rather it's sensed there that the Ratzin of Hashem came into fruition. Nivra. And through the tzura that's in every creation. So he says, Taka, there's 2 points that he said before. What is the tzura? Shakavona b'tzuras hanivrahi. What do we mean? Tzuras hanivra hein l'tziura gashmi shaloi. Whether it's the physical shape, the gam la'atava v'atchuna shaloi, and also the nature and his characteristics. Hoysa mebchinas harotzin. That was from the rotzin. Harizem madgish. So then that emphasized that the matter of nature in the inside is that through it, the will of Hashem is completed. So that it becomes the fact that the Rotzen is involved in the creating of the Tzura Sachaimer, the physical Tzura and the characteristics, that emphasize that in Teva is Pnimius, that it's because that's the way the Rosh Elyon, and not because it is Tevis Mokum Tzadatzme. In his Bayerli explained earlier, but they were Maskal Posachal in that Maimer earlier, Del Hapirush Shetava Hu Meloshin Matbeya, that according to the interpretation, he brought down 3 interpretations, but according to the interpretation, that Teva comes from the Loshen of a coin. Hashem coined it, Sha'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tova Kol Odom B'Chaysomo Shel Odom Harishen. Hashem coined, sealed each one with a seal of Odom Harishen. It's the form. He used the form of Odom Harishen to form every. And according to that shot, the shape Teva, Koi al Hachayus the Olam. The name Teva goes on the vitality of the world. Ula Pirush Sheteva Hu Shem Hamushal. He brings from the Tanya that Teva is a borrowed name. L'chol dover she'ena al pitam v'das, to every item which is not according to reason and rationale, Shem Teva Koi Al Hishavos Olam Ein Liyesh. That goes, the name of Teva, on creating the world from Ayin into a Yesh. Either the Chayis of the world or the creation of the world. According to the second Loshen Teva, Loshen Matbeya, that it brings from the Medrash, it's on the Chayis of the world, and according to the Tanya, it's the creation of the world. The Bria Yesh Mi'ayin. Mashe Enkein Inyan HaChayis Hilamaylo Ma'asechel. So over there, the idea of Chayis is higher than Sechel. So basically, that the creation of the world is Teva. But when we talk about the Chayis, that would be higher than Sechel. That's not Teva. Yeshloimar, the Abitul Shabeteva, who benegeya l'shnei inyonim. We're talking about that Teva has the level of nature because it comes also from the level of Rotzin, the part of Rotzin, the Tzura. So we can say that this bittul is in two matters. The bittul sheshayich l'chayus ha'olam, the bittul which relates to the vitality of the world, mizgale b'habittul the tzuras hanivroim, that is revealed in the bittul of the shape of the nivroim that they're created. The tzura is created. Kitzuras hanivroim hikli lachayis v'nefesh u'behem, because the shape of the nivroim is a vessel to the chayis of the nefesh that's in them. So there is a relationship between them and the chayis. Because the chayis comes according to the shape of the kelim. So that surah, that's a bittul that is shaykh to the chayis of the world. V'habittul sheshayich li'ishavos ha'olam, and the bittul that which belongs to the part of creation of the world, mizgala bazeh, that is revealed. She's havos yesh ma'ayin ein loy mokoim b'seichel, that the fact that creating something from yesh ma'ayin has no place in seichel, beyond seichel. The fact that there is no place in the seichel, we don't understand. There's creating yesh me'ayin moira. That point, that shows that because of the boundaries, the limitation of the world, there is no room for his being created. Yesh me'ayin is not logical. Possession is and the fact that the world was created comes because of the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's a level of bittul that comes from the fact that there is no understanding to this concept of yesh me'ayin. And that means that the inherent level of teva has in itself bittul. So the bittul for the chayis of the world, the second pirush in teva, that comes from the tzuras hanivroim. But it's still connected because the tzuras hanivroim is a vessel for the chayis. But the hishavos, which is entirely above seichel, that comes from the bittul, comes from the understanding, from the fact that there's no understanding in yesh me'ayin. Bezehu shebenissim yesh shnei yifanim. And this is why in miracles there's two ways corresponding to these two levels of bittul. This shinui bitzuras utchunas hanivroim, there is a change in the form, the shape, and the characteristic of the created being. Kemoi Kriyas Yamsuf. Say, for example, splitting of the Yamsuf, Shahamayim Nitzvu K'moy Neid. The waters stood up like a neid, like a wall. So that the water normally falls, and here they stood up. And then we have another case. Here, it's just in their characteristics of the character of water is to fall, but there was no change in the material of the when the splitting of the Yamsuf. But there is another shinui be'etzem mitziusam ba'chaymer. There's also a change in the essence of their existence, in the material. Kahanes shahamayim nepchu lidom, as the miracle water turned to blood, v'shahamata nepach lenochosh, and that the stick turns into a snake. Those are changes in the material. So these two miracles, the al yidei habitul shebetzuras hanivroim, through the subjugation of the shape of the nivroim, min lakriyas yamsuf, shaisavus atzure mirotzin, the creation of the tzura, the shape, the tzura comes from rotzin, heim k'moy kelim lehanes, the shinui hatzura v'hateva. So that bitl of tzuras ha'adam, they become the vessels for the miracle which changes the shape and the nature. They express, that miracle expresses that rotzin of Hashem, because that's where the characteristics and the and the shape of the water, in this case, that it stands up. But through the subjugation in their essence of their mitzius, which means the bitlet savus mitziusam ein lamokum b'seichel, that their existence bringing them has no room in seichel. They become like a vessel. That miracle becomes the vessel for a miracle which changes their essence of their being. That has to do with the third level of teva, in which there is no mitzias. The whole mitzias is yesh me'ayin bittul. There's not even a material. Not only no shape, there's no material. So this is in order to bring down all these inyanim, you need this change. And the Rebbe says now the same really applies in the other way around. Ches. Yesh leimar, we can say shal derech zehu liidoch, that the same thing is on the other hand. Here we're saying that in Teva, there has to be higher than Teva. Now we're going to say that in higher than Teva, there needs to be Teva in order for the higher to Teva to connect with Teva. Here we're saying that in order for the higher than Teva to come down Teva, we need to find higher than Teva in Teva, which we brought down the two examples, the Bittul Hatsura and the Bittul HaChomer, the two types of miracles. But we also have the other way, Li'idach Isa, so that the part which is higher than Teva should be drawn down into the nature of the world. Is true that in higher than Teva there is similar to Teva. Baruch Sha'asa Nisim Loshen Rabim, and this is what we say. Blessed, he made Nisim in a plural. So we said before, not just many miracles, but Ribe Suge Nisim, many categories of Nisim. The Yesh Loimar, that we can say the Mahataimim Sheyesh Nam Ribui Nisim. What is one of the reasons? Why is there multiple of miracles? Even though the fact of multiple, many, hischalkus, that's division, hu b'ishtalshlus, that is in the order where there is already a ishtalshlus. And the root of higher than teva miracle is beyond ishtalshlus. Why is there so many categories of nisim? The fact that there is a multiple of nisim, in order to allow for the hamshocha that is higher than teva to come down into the teva world. That's why we need this multiple nisim. The inyan ribu hasugim shebenisim. So now he just frames it that the reason why we have miracles, many, it's because we need these miracles to come down from into Hishtalshlus, from the Mailma Tava and Tava Doilam. What are these Ribasugim Shemanisim? Admur Marshab Nishmos Ein Maimer. So he explains it in the Maimer. Shabeklolus Nechlokim Heim Lebei Sugim. Usually there is two categories. Nisim Shalamayla Mahatava, miracles that are beyond nature, Venisim Hamuluboshim Bedarki Hatava. And there's miracles that are dressed up in the ways of nature. Beproti is specifically in more detailed, Gam Benisim Hamuluboshim Betava Gufa, even in the Nisim that are dressed up in nature itself, Yeshnam Shnei Sugim. There is also two categories. Shalevushe Hateva Heim Ba'oifet Shenikar Bahem Sheheim Rak Levush Lahanes Shemislabish Bahem, that the garments of nature, even though it's dressed up in nature, but these garments of nature are in such a way that you can tell in them that they're merely Rak Levush Lahanes Shemislabish Bahem. They only serve as a garment to the miracle that dress up in them. Kanisim the Chanukah Purim, as the miracles of Chanukah and Purim. Where the nature there was just like dressed up in nature, but you can tell that this is a miracle dressed up in that. Similarly, the miracles that took place for the redemption of Yutus Kislev and of Yud Beis Tammuz, they were freed while they were in nature, but you can tell that it's a miracle dressed up in nature. While, although they were dressed up in the ways of nature, and yet it can tell openly to the extent all of the world, everybody can tell there's a miracle there. The other category is the other case would be with the garments of nature, they obscure, they block the miracle that's in them. Until sometimes they totally hide, they totally obscure. You can't even see in the miracle, you don't see a miracle at all there. You can't even tell that it's a miracle. As the expression goes, Ein Bal Hanes Makir Benisai. The person who has the miracle doesn't even recognize the miracle. The Rebbe says, to add, that also in the miracles that are beyond the nature is also Shnei Sugim. There's also two categories. Although miracles are not dressed in nature, there is space. You might make a mistake. Maybe this is nature. As the moon descended for 40 years, even though the miracle was not dressed in Tava. As the Rambam writes, that for the Yidden to be in the desert for 40 years, and to find the manna there, Who mahaploim hagedolim is one of the great wonders. The nature of the desert, it's not a place where things grow. Don't sow things there. The Yefshesh can be no lechem there. Not bread from the earth and not bread from the heavens. And certainly the other aspect, there was no leftover in the month. The other miracles, even one who collected less than the oimer, the portion, a portion to each one, he still wasn't lacking. He got the full oimer. From the nature perspective, there's no space from that. So this is really a great miracle, but yet, the fact that this was a miracle that repeated itself for 40 years, so there was room to make a mistake. Maybe this is nature. So that's one level. A nes that can be mistaken for nature. And sometimes sometimes the nes is so open, it doesn't even have any room. You cannot even make a mistake that it's nature. As the miracle of splitting of the sea. The Maimer explained. So the Rebbe added that also in the Nisim above Teva, in the Maimer over there, he explained the two Nisim in nature, dressed up in nature, but you can tell that it's a miracle and that you can't tell it's a miracle. The Rebbe added that in above nature, we have above nature, which can sometimes be mistaken for nature if it happens like for 40 years, the month, even though it's one of the greatest miracle. And on the other hand, you have a miracle which is absolutely no mistake that it's nature. So Mamshir ba Maimer is test, it continues the Maimer, the Ba'achiluk sheben shnei asugim, that the difference between the two categories, Nisim shalamayla mahatava, Nisim amloboshim mitava, the miracles that are beyond nature and the miracles that are dressed in nature, B'shorsham shnei biyurim. It says the two category in the root, he gives two explanations. The shoyresh hanisim shalamayla mahatava hu mishem havaya. The root of the miracles, which is beyond nature, comes from the name Havaya Yudke Vavke. V'shoyresh hanisim amaloboshim betava, and the root of the nisim that are dressed in nature, who mishem Shaddai, comes from the name Shidalad Yud. Shaddai be'elokuse l'chol bria, that he has in my godliness sufficient for all creation. So that is a miracle which is dressed in nature. And the difference of the two benisim aluboshim b'teva gufahu. So what is the difference? So this is just the general that in nature there is the shem shindalad yud, which is the nisim that are dressed in teva, but then we have the difference between the two nisim that are dressed in tava itself. The shame Shaddai who be yisoid. The name Shaddai is in the level the Sfiras HaYisoid Sham Shocha Shaloi Lamato Hi Al Yidei HaMalchus, that it comes down through Malchus. From Yisoid it goes to Malchus and it comes down. Ubezeh Shnei Fanim, and you have two ways it comes through Malchus. Sham Shochosam Al Yidei HaMalchus Hi Bederech Maivir, that it comes, just passes through Malchus. Oishi b'derech hislapshus, or it dresses up in Malchus. And that's the root of the two ways of the nisim. The lefi biur, that's one explanation. Hachiluk shebein shnei hasugim hanisim ugam b'shorshom, the difference of the two categories is also in the root. The oit biur, and then there's another explanation. The hanisim amaloboshim miteva hey mebchinas hani, They come from the level ani. Kemoisha melubes ba'ayin the malchus. Well, derech hamevur b'mokem achad the shedesh anisim hamelubosh b'tev b'mshevayk b'shloshim adnai. Okay, we'll go over again the second part over here from Oistes. We'll start again over. I mean, it's a short piece left here, but we'll start it again.